Hello, kids. It's Mr. AG again, and I'm here to read the second half of the book, Cycle of Rice, Cycle of Life. Yesterday we ended here at this picture caption, and today I'm going to take you through the rest of the book, and then there's a quiz over the book posted on the assignments page, and you can also access it on the main page for our homeroom Schoology page. So I'm going to start here with this caption, and I'll take us to the end. In Bali, there are 3 separate words for rice: paddy when it is in the field, beras when it is dried, uncooked, nasi when it is cooked. After all the rice is harvested and the field is completely cut, the stalks are left to rot and break down in a small amount of remaining water. They will decompose, returning to the soil and making it rich in nutrients and healthy enough to grow the next crop of rice. This is the cycle of rice, circling from seeds to rice-bearing plants to cut stalks that go back into the soil. A sustainable system. Can the cycle continue? After the harvest, the field is fallow or without crops, but there is still work to be done. Putu waves a long bamboo pole to herd his family's ducks to the spot where he wants them to settle down and eat. He must guess which way the ducks might run and head them off. Duck herding is a lively game, but it is also an important job. The ducks play a crucial role in allowing the cycle of rice to continue, year after year, for generations to come. When only one type of crop is planted over and over in the same soil, the soil often becomes depleted of certain nutrients and eventually loses the ability to support another planting of the same crop. Maintaining fertile soil is one of the most difficult problems facing farmers around the world. Another major problem is getting rid of pests, such as insects and animals that eat their crops. On farms in Bali, ducks work as natural pesticides and fertilizers for the rice fields. When Putu herds the ducks around the freshly cut field after the growing cycle, the ducks eat worms and bugs. If these pests were not controlled, they could multiply to great numbers on leftover rice kernels. By the following planting season, this increased number of pests could cause damage to the next crop of rice. After eating pests, ducks digest this food and deposit manure, which then decomposes. Along with any decomposing leftover rice stalks, duck manure fertilizes the soil, making it healthy for the next crop of rice plants. Because of the ducks, the fields are cleared of harmful pests and the soil is fortified with nutrients. This type of rice farming is known as sustainable agriculture, meaning the crop can be grown over and over in the same field year after year. Since this type of farming does not use chemicals that could be harmful to the land, air, and water, the system is also environmentally sustainable. It causes no lasting damage to the earth. Although this traditional Balinese method of rice farming has been successful for more than 1,000 years, in the 1960s, something unusual happened. Because Bali was the best rice producer out of the thousands of islands that make up Indonesia, the government decided that it would make Bali an even better rice producer. The extra rice would then be used to help feed the country's growing population. The government agreed to participate in an international program called the Green Revolution. This program promoted the planting of hybrid rice, or rice modified in a laboratory that could grow to maturity more quickly than unmodified rice. Instead of following their usual patterns of the growing cycle, alternating between planting fields and leaving them fallow, Balinese farmers were asked to plant as much hybrid rice as they could, as often as they could. The government spent millions of dollars building new dams and irrigation systems to support this continuous rice planting. The ceremonial organization of water sharing schedules among the farmers was eliminated. This threw the ancient water temple system into chaos, threatening the ties that had connected community members and synchronized their lives with the natural cycles of water and plants. The big surprise was that the best rice producer in Indonesia soon became the worst. Bali's rice Bali's rice productivity decreased sharply because the fields were in use continuously. There was never a fallow period, so rice stalks could not decompose back into the soil, and ducks were not able to scavenge. The overused soil became depleted of nutrients. Pests overran the fields, devouring rice before it could be harvested. More and more chemical fertilizers and pesticides had to be used to replace lost nutrients in the soil and control the increasing numbers of pests. Instead of fixing these problems, however, the chemicals caused more damage. Many were toxic and ran into the water system and out to the ocean, damaging water-dwelling life and harming the coral reefs. The chemicals even ended up in the water that people drank. In addition, the pesticides were not effective in killing the pests. The result was stronger, more chemically resistant strains of pests. Within a few years, it became evident that the imposed system of the Green Revolution, with its fast-growing hybrid rice, was a disaster. The system decreased the very rice production it was meant to boost. This type of chemically enhanced agriculture was not sustainable. It could not maintain healthy, abundant crops of rice year after year, even with the aid of chemicals, pesticides, and fertilizers. Worst of all, the new system was dangerous to the environment and people of Bali. Tradition versus technology, saving the cycle. During the time of the Green Revolution, J. Stephen Lansing, an American anthropologist from the University of Southern California, was spending time in Bali studying the water temple system. Lansing became aware that the Geyatri, other priests and farmers in the temple system, all played significant roles in the intricate structure of Balinese rice farming. He also realized that this traditional system took into account important aspects of ecology and social networking. Now, this centuries-old system was under serious threat from the new hybrid rice planting. Lansing knew something had to be done. He set out to help restore the traditional Balinese rice farming practices before the land and system were damaged forever. For more than 1,000 years, sacred water ceremonies were led by the priests of Geyatri. Water was shared and the community was united. Rice crops were abundant, and the people and land were cared for. It was a synchronized system that worked in perfect harmony. Lansing saw the social, environmental, and agricultural value in this traditional, sustainable method of rice farming. He sought a way to explain to the Indonesian government that hybrid rice and chemicals were not the answer to producing large crops. Government officials needed to understand that the water temple system was essential to Bali's production of abundant rice crops and to protecting the land. But the government did not want to listen. They sent Lansing reports from civil engineers saying, "The farmers don't need a high priest. They need a hydrologist," which is a water scientist. Letters from officials claimed that the priests did not exercise any active role in irrigation activities. Frustrated but determined, Lansing returned to the United States. After obtaining a National Science Foundation grant, he enlisted the help of his friend, professor and ecologist James Creamer. Creamer traveled to Bali with Lansing. He hoped to learn about the ecosystem of the rice fields and the creatures living within it, alongside Lansing's study of the water temple culture. What Creamer discovered was that pulsing systems were more productive than static systems. This meant rice fields produced more when water flowed in and out of the fields, allowing for a fallow period in between growing cycles, than if the fields were kept flooded continually. Pulsing also cut down on the number of pests because of the fallow duck scavenging periods between floodings. Lansing and Creamer, the ancient water temple system of farming seemed to be more productive, a cultural and ecological point of view. Now they had to convince the Indonesian government of this. They decided to put together a computerized model of the data they had gathered. The program calculated potential harvests under any given conditions by incorporating all the variables in rice farming, such as rainfall, planting schedules, and pest proliferation. The computer was like a crystal ball, making predictions. In many ways, the computer did what the priests and farmers had been doing for more than 1,000 years. What the farmers traditionally prayed for to the goddess Dewi Danu of water and Dewi Sri of rice could be replicated on a computer screen. Lansing did not want the computer model to replace the traditional system of farmers and priests. Instead, he hoped it would help them. He thought they might be able to use it in conjunction with their own predictions and decision-making. More importantly, he wanted the computer model to demonstrate to members of the Indonesian government just how much work the farmers and priests had been doing all along. Lansing met with the government officials to show them the model. Seeing all the variables that had to be predicted for successful crops, the government officials began to understand the valuable and complicated job priests and farmers had managed. They realized the temple system had coordinated water sharing and crop rotation better than the government had. The water temple system was reinstated for the majority of farms across Bali. Farmers returned to the old rituals of crop planting and water sharing. Productivity increased, and the need for pesticides declined sharply, as fields were once again allowed to lie fallow. However, some lasting effects of the Green Revolution remained. Because the chemical balance of the soil had been disrupted, many farmers still had to use chemical fertilizers. This posed a continued threat to the environment. Let us think of the lovely splendor of the God of the Sun, that he may inspire our minds. The Geyatri Mantra. Stephen Lansing's work prompted a wide-ranging effort in Bali and other parts of the world to evaluate traditional ways of farming before imposing modern techniques. His work showed that blending the old and the new, ancient tradition with cutting-edge technology, can promote unique ways of thinking about our global future. Computer models such as Lansing and Kramer's are now being used to explore sustainable agriculture in different parts of the world. Other environmental issues such as deforestation and the impact of global warming are being studied with these kinds of models too. Lansing continues his work in Bali. With the water temple system restored, he is leading a campaign to reduce the lingering use of chemical fertilizers. He hopes one day to see Bali return completely to the traditional chemical-free methods of farming that worked so well for centuries. Balinese farmers know their lives must be lived in harmony with natural cycles in order to carry on their rice farming for the next 1,000 years. They have a special prayer, Om Sarwa Prani Hitankaram. May all that breathes be well. If the natural world is in balance, then all is in harmony. On the island of Bali, life can be sustainable, and children such as Putu and Kadek can imagine a future of hope for themselves and generations to come. As palm and banana trees sway in the breeze at dusk, coconut shells float like little boats, carrying the day's offerings of rice pastry and flowers down the river. The Tena Lot Temple is silhouetted against the darkening sky, near where these offerings will flow out into the vast ocean. Once again, water will evaporate into the clouds and rain down into Lake Batur, perhaps becoming precious drops of holy water. Once again, there will be a celebration at every water temple, every rice harvest, and every home, honoring the cycle of water, the cycle of rice, and the cycle of life on the beautiful island of Bali. Here is the author's note. I'll leave it up, and a map of Bali here, an island off the coast, or one of the islands of the country of Indonesia. You can see Bali is an island right about here. And now, once you finish this read aloud, you can head into the Schoology assignments and resources and click the quiz for the book. Good luck, do your best, and can't wait to see you again.